forward. So you interview 1,000 people to find like 50 that match that criteria. Then you just train them up over time. Yeah, they're insane.
On. Okay.
I mean, essentially, they are the product.
Facebook's good.
I speak, and I'm kind of the face, and I've got all these other speakers. You on Facebook? But at the end of the day,
I'm going to.
Okay. All right.
I'm ready.
Stream is on the way.
Amazing.
There's no way I can test it.
Okay, Periscope's good.
Did you start?
YouTube's connecting.
15 years in January. Yeah.
Okay.
Been doing
All
it
right.
since I was 18. Like
YouTube, just waiting on YouTube.
Okay.
Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Earl Nightingale. My dad was a salesperson.
Oh, wow.
Facebook's good. We should be live.
63.
Just waiting on YouTube.
Yeah, I
Like, so
got the
it's all
notification.
like, I do it. My brother does it. My little brother works
Really?
as a coach. My
That's
sister took over like when I was running my dad's company. I'm like,
Mike's are on.
I'm leaving. Turn over to my little sister and go, you got it.
Right.
And she just felt to keep going.
Mike's are on.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's fun.
All right, gentlemen. We are ready. It is 10:30.
The mics are on, but is it rolling?
It is rolling.
We are live.
Are we live right now?
Not now. Wait for my go.
Okay, I was all excited. but Marty's saying she can hear us.
Yeah. Oops. And go.
Hey, what's up, everybody out there on social media? We're live today on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Spectacular,
Wow.
spectacular.
All four.
I have the legendary Tom Bilyeu, Impact Theory. If you're not following him, you absolutely should. It's just going to be at Tom Bilyeu,
Tom Bilyeu.
/ Tom Bilyeu
That's
everywhere. So Tom, yesterday I went on to one of our Facebook pages and I said, I'm interviewing a legendary builder of businesses. And I think that was actually inappropriate. You are a legendary builder of human potential. I think that's a much better way to describe, after our interaction and just, getting to know you. So maybe for the people that are watching this right now that aren't following you on all the social channels, which they absolutely should, give them a little backstory. Who is Tom Bilyeu? Help them understand context for why I would feel the way I feel about you.
Oh, so I'm not a born entrepreneur, but through hard work, discipline, and changing my mindset, I became a very successful entrepreneur. One of the companies that I built called Quest Nutrition in 2014 was the second fastest growing company in North America. We grew by 57,000% in 3 years in manufacturing, which is like unheard
Insane.
of. That was amazing, gave me the kind of financial success where, as I was saying to you, my wife and I had a decision. Do we buy an island and retire and never work again, or do we really double down and use our wealth to create something that we think can impact people on a global scale? And the company's called Impact Theory because this is my theory on how to impact people, but I have a growth mindset, so I'm prepared to be wrong. But this really is building a studio to make both social content and traditional narrative content. We want to build a studio that rivals Disney. And the reason we want to do that is to have cultural impact. And I also think it's a huge business opportunity. So
I agree 100%. So if you've been exposed to David Goggins, the first person that introduced me to him was this guy. I was sitting at my house one day and I was just scrolling through YouTube and I was like, I love Tom Bilyeu. His interview style is extraordinary. And then I'm like, who's this David Goggins guy?
Yeah.
And I just said, I think I'm easily 20 or 25 views of that video, and then brought him out to the summit. And really, my intention was, okay, I'm going to connect with David Goggins, but ultimately, I want to connect with you, right? Because he has been out interviewing some of the most extraordinary thought leaders, authors, writers, business people, entrepreneurs, athletes. And before we get into the questions that I know a lot of our clients want to ask, I would love for you just to share. Maybe just give him a spattering of a few of the names that you have interviewed, and then what are some of the 2 or 3 big takeaways, or maybe that one consistent message we talked about that you've learned from all these amazing people?
So I've interviewed Tim Ferriss, David Goggins, Tony Robbins, Peter Diamandis, Mel Robbins,
Peter Diamandis,
Steve Aoki. I'm blanking. Literally like 150 different people at this point, all absolute world class in what they do. Athletes, T.O., anybody Terrell Owens fan. A bevy of the who's who of thinkers. And the one thing that they all have in common is grit, hustle, determination, sticking with it, growth mindset. I mean, you're going to hear the same things over and over and over, and it all boils down to the fact that no matter how good you are, no matter how much raw potential you have, in fact, you know who Tim Grover is?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so Michael Jordan's trainer.
Coach,
yeah, so he said, look, everybody has seen somebody that has an inordinate amount of talent, and they do nothing.
Yes.
And so that's the thesis that I sit on top of, which is we all have potential, but doing something with your potential is very different than having it. And so what I want to help people do is that. And you just hear people say that over and over and over is, T.O., I had to get good at this. And people think that, like, I was just born naturally gifted. He's like, that is not true. Like, I don't consider myself a natural athlete. And, of course, he's future Hall of Famer.
Yes.
So hearing that message over and over is pretty amazing.
And you hear it from the Kobe Bryants of the world. Every interview you read, every one of them says the same thing. I worked my face off.
Yep.
No one got there on just luck. Right? 100%. So you're talking to a couple 100,000 people on multiple channels right now. They want to ask a bunch of questions, but I got one more for you. So what is your morning routine? Like, what do you do to get yourself going? A lot of our culture is, finish the day right, start the day right. So everybody's always interested by finding peak performance and saying, what do you do in the morning? So would you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, a morning routine starts the night before. So I'm in bed by 9 p.m. period. It's like a religion for me. And I do that because I want to get as much sleep as I need. So I prioritize sleep. Yeah. That is critical. Yeah. I don't use an alarm, boys and girls. So I'm talking about sleep as much as you need. I haven't used an alarm in 15 years, and I've built massive companies. So it isn't, I don't have enough time to sleep.
Yes.
Your cognition slows down. So in terms of being efficient, getting sleep is absolutely critical. Then I give myself 10 minutes, exactly 10 minutes or less to get out of bed. I have a bright line there. That's really important for me. Maybe other people don't struggle with that. I am not a morning person.
I think the vast majority of the people struggle with that. So
then give yourself a hard and fast, like whatever that is. So for me, it's 10 minutes. Get out of bed. I immediately go to the gym. I work out for about an hour, and then I meditate. That's the next thing I do. And the reason that I do that is I think one of the most important things you can learn to do from a physiological perspective is take yourself from fight or flight mode, which is the sympathetic nervous system, into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. And the easiest way to do that is diaphragm breathing, and you'll be shocked when you practice that you really can transition very rapidly. And they exist in what's called a negative feedback loop, which to me is a really inaccurate way of saying it's like a seesaw. So when one is up, the other is down, and when you switch that, you switch the balance. So if you want to get out of that anxiety, stress mode, literally sit in a comfortable position, breathe from your diaphragm. I resisted it for years, so I get the temptation, but trust me when I say it works.
But like anything else, you have to work at it. You don't try and meditate for the first time and go, why do I keep saying this? Why is the chatter still going in my head? Over time and over discipline and over trial and error, figure it out.
No question.
Is there an app or something you recommend?
I use Calm, but I don't do guided meditation ever. Absolutely hate it. My wife, on the other hand, loves guided meditation, and for her, it's the only thing that works. So try it all. I tried guided and just didn't like it.
I'm a huge fan of Kelly Howell. Check out Kelly Howell. She's got a ton of them. Your wife would dig it. You would hate it. All right. So you get up early, right? 3, 4 in the morning, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Right. So 3, 4 in the morning, 10 minutes out, go to the gym, and then meditate for how long?
Usually about 20 minutes.
Okay, and then what do you do next?
Then I do what I call thinkitating. So I found myself very frustrated meditating because you're supposed to come back to the breath, not think, but meditating puts you in a calm, creative state. So you're having some of your best ideas, and there I'm chasing away like my best ideas. So I found that for me to be able to relax in meditation, I needed to know the next thing I would do is actually let my mind wander across my biggest problems while I'm still in that calm, creative state, where you really will have some of your best ideas. So that's been really, really powerful for me. And then after that I read, and depending on what time I woke up, I may read for an hour, I may read for 3. I have no idea. And then I'll go into my list of important things. So by 8 a.m., no matter what, I'm in important things. And important things is never about thinking, it's always about action. So here are the things I need to be taking action on to actually move me forward. Look, a lot of this just comes down to being hyper-specific. In fact, I should have said that in the last thing we did, like hyper-specificity, which I'm totally obsessed with.
Speak to that.
If you don't know exactly what your goal is, you're never going to achieve it. And so, because every goal takes really specific strengths, skills, efforts, like things you actually have to do. And so what I find is, here's what happens. You tell people, hey, you've got to be specific. You've got to know what you want, what your goal is.
How much of what
absolutely. I've got it. Ready? I want to win a gold medal. In what? The Olympics, summer or winter? What
summer?
decade? Yeah, he's got like down
Yeah.
to what sport. And so
Yes.
even after people think they're being ridiculous, now I'm so specific, I want to win a gold medal for swimming in the Summer Olympics. Which event? Like the backstroke is very different than the breaststroke. So really getting people to understand the level of specificity I'm talking about is comical. Like you need to know exactly what you want to do.
Okay, so if you're on my Facebook page right now or anywhere, any one of our channels, we've had, I don't know, Marty, I'm guessing tens of thousands of people have already downloaded the new copy of the business plan. So a little shameless self-promotion. It's FREE free. He's talking about getting specific on the details of your business. That's exactly what we provide. And we just give it away for free.
Yeah.
All right, so specificity, anything back on the morning routine?
So once I finish with my important things, well, I never finish it, but
Yeah.
people start showing up usually around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then the momentum of the day of working with everybody kicks off. I try to carve out probably 30% of my day when people are there for important things again, so that I'm spending the majority of my time on that.
Yes.
But that's it. That gets you to when everybody shows up.
Talk about sleeping for a second. Years ago, I got the Sleep Cycle app. Dr. Lee, a great friend of mine, who said to me, basically, Tom, you're running at 3 or 4 hours a night of sleep, you're going to die. And he gave me this entire breakdown of his thesis around sleep. I'm now trying to get 5 to 6 deep sleep cycles per night. I'm about 1,485 days in so far.
Wow.
So I've been doing it for a couple of years now. It's been unbelievable in terms of energetic shift, health and vitality. But you're kind of more of a scientist on this. So what advice do you have around sleeping or recommendations?
Yeah, so my thing is do whatever it takes to cognitively optimize. And I think there are 3 things that really feed into it. So people often ask me how I'm so energetic,
Yes.
Especially if they see me do one of my endless Q&As where,
Yes.
I may be standing there for 10, 11 hours.
Coming up in January at the Elite.
So
Yes.
literally just standing there. And my goal, because I'll film the whole thing, right? So my
Yes.
goal is if you played a clip from hour 11 and you played a clip from hour 1, you'd never be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
And so people ask, how do you generate that kind of energy? And the answer is not spiritual or deep. It's very simple. If you can produce ATP efficiently through your mitochondria, you're going to have the energy, especially if you're excited about what you do. So it really is that basic. So now, how do you optimize from a mitochondria perspective? It's sleep, it's working out, and it's diet.
Yes.
And I really wish that I could say there was like an ice cream way to get to this, because I would take it.
Yes.
But alas, there is not. So it really is just clean living, pushing yourself in the gym so that you have the anaerobic threshold that you need to crush it. So you can generate energy in your life, literally not generate like woo-woo energy, but I'm talking like actual real
Yes.
ATP energy,
Yes.
which is happening at a cellular level right now in your body. In fact, dying is when your cells can no longer produce ATP. So really figuring out that process, what you need to eat. I'll just, like as a blunt force trauma simplicity thing, don't eat sugar. So if you were to completely remove sugar from your life, you'd be way better off. And we could go down a very deep rabbit hole on nutrition.
That means no more alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, look,
anything what? Like
100%.
So you might have just had a few people turn this off, but we're
Yeah.
talking about living at a high level. We're talking about living at level 10, having an impact, right? So speak to that a little more, and then we'll do a little Q&A.
Yeah, so look, there are certain things I want from my life, and first of all, I'm the wrong person to take advice from if you want a stress-free life.
Yeah.
And I think it is actually really important who you listen to, not based on even right or wrong, based on what you want for your
Yes.
life.
Yes.
So full disclosure, I plan to live forever. Now, I exist in the friction between, I actually mean, when I say I want to live forever, I mean I want to never die.
Yes.
And I think that that's actually plausible for somebody of my age right now, based on where technology is
Dr. Peter
headed.
Diamandis and the, yes.
100%.
I'm a part of A360. So
Nice.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I think that's all very plausible. But at the same time, I could have an aneurysm before I finish this interview, right? So I exist in that friction of making sure that I'm doing things that set me up to have the best chance of long-term viability because I actually enjoy my life.
Yes.
And then recognizing, hey, time is fleeting, and if you don't make the most of it right now, you're really in trouble.
The problem is too many people don't know what they want.
That
Right?
is for sure.
They say, I want the good life. And I'm like, could you describe that with specificity? Can you
Right.
describe it for me? Well, I've got a house. Well, you already have a house. Right? Well, you already have a relationship, but it's miserable. Like, so what advice do you have that person? And maybe this goes back to the whole matrix conversation. Not all of my friends out here watching. The vast majority of them, they're operating at level 10. They're doing the best they can with what they got every single day. But some of them feel stuck. Some of them feel like there just isn't something out there for them. Any advice or tips on connecting with what's really important to you?
Yeah, it's a process. So I think the most dangerous thing we do as a society, and I find myself doing it, and I want to punch myself in the mouth, is to say that you find your passion. You don't find your passion. So you don't find love either. So to me, this is all a process. Yeah. So what you do, if you want to find your passion, is you need to encounter a bunch of things, a lot of things, whatever it is. Skydiving, accounting, video games, like whatever, a broad spectrum of things. Pain will definitely be a part of this.
Yes.
So encounter all those things, see which ones are flickers of interest, which is how this is going to start. Once you find something that's a flicker of interest, engage with it. Don't think about it, engage with it.
Yes.
Do it more. If it turns into a fascination, then you're going to go down the process of gaining mastery. Now, I think mastery is an inherent part of passion. Yes. I don't think if you think you're passionate about something that you have no mastery in, I think you just have the wrong word for passion.
Yeah.
So as you're gaining mastery and actually getting good, it triggers this thing called techne, which is what the Greeks talked about, where they said, if you want real fulfillment in your life, which is a key component of passion, then it needs to be a skill set that is unique to you, that you've worked your ass off to get, and it serves other people. So it isn't purely selfish. You're doing something that actually moves humanity forward. And when you're able to do that, and it's not cheap, like ladling soup at a soup kitchen, which is, it's nice and it's got kind of this momentary pleasure to it. But like an example of Toyota used to send their employees to ladle soup at a soup kitchen until one of them said, why don't we show them how to optimize this, which is our unique skill set? And so they like fourfolded the number of people that they could feed for the same money. I just thought that was absolutely incredible. So that's technique. So I think gaining mastery is a key part of this. Now, in gaining mastery, you really will find out if you love it enough to push through the boredom and the difficulty. And that's where people get really good at something. And it's the being good at something that's going to be, and you said this earlier, is cognitively rewarding. So the game you're playing isn't money, it's not success, it's brain chemistry. I promise.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people talk about 10,000 hours to mastery. Brian Tracy, one of my early mentors in the late 80s, talked about it 100 years ago. Thoughts on the whole sort of, is it a myth for you? Is it real for you? Because when we talk about doing the work, right? Okay, it's gone from a Kindle to, Elan Vital, the vital urge. Right now it's there for me. A lot of people get stuck in that, like the time it takes.
There's no way around it. So it's not a myth. I think that it's sort of a mile marker. I don't think that 10,000 hours, honestly, is sort of the bottom rung of exceptional. So if you look at somebody like a Jordan or a Kobe or anybody that's succeeded in something like that, where we really paint them with a natural talent brush, I think if you dig under that, you're going to realize maybe they started a little bit ahead of everybody else, but they would have been buried by harder workers had they not also worked themselves near to death. And there's a great story that Jay Williams, who was in the NBA, is now a sportscaster on ESPN, and he talked about when he was playing for the Bulls and they were playing against the Lakers, and he went out and he starts shooting, and he realizes Kobe Bryant's already in the gym, and then when he finishes and leaves, Kobe stays and keeps going. And he asked Kobe after the game, like, why did you stay so long? You were already in there before me. He said, I had to prove to you that I was willing to work harder than you. And he was like, no offense, like, I need you to know that I'm willing to do more. And he was like, that stuck with him. And when you find somebody like that, it's very tempting to dismiss and just say, well, they're naturally gifted. The ones that are going to be remembered are the ones that, like, the 10,000 hour, that's their warm-up.
Yeah, it's the beginning. I love it. All right, let's do a bunch of Q&A. So I'm going to guess that's Quang. Quang Con Win asks, as an entrepreneur, during difficult times where things are going against you, on those days where nothing seems to be going right, how do you wake up and motivate yourself and the whole team around you to move forward?
That's awesome. So there's two answers to that. So number one is you need to understand that, as Mel Robbins said, motivation is garbage. Sometimes it's going to be there, sometimes it's not. It's very transient. So you've got to learn to be able to turn inward and say, I'm going to get up and do this thing because I believe in it and I'm excited about it, which is the second part, which is that's something that you cultivate. So going back to that notion of it's not something that's just intrinsic or innate to you. Like when I think about, I've given my fortune and my life over to pulling people out of the matrix, to use my words, to build this studio that I think will impact at global scale people's belief systems. Now, that wasn't like I was born with that. So I had some things happen in my life. For an extra credit assignment in college, I ended up working as a tutor in the inner cities, met this kid named Rashawn, and realized his life was so weird and askew because he grew up in Compton and he had no sense of, like, even just beauty.
This is the kid that would act out for the first 45
yes.
minutes of everything.
First hour,
I remember this. Yeah, this was a powerful conversation.
Very crazy. And so anyway, because he would act out like that, and they'd say it's supposed to be 8 weeks, and at week 6 you're supposed to say, hey, I'm only coming for 2 more weeks. And so I told him, and he went ballistic. I mean, I've never seen, literally up until the point, I'd never seen a human act like that. Like, he was inconsolable, shrieking, fighting. Like, he seemed like a feral animal.
Yeah.
And so as an 18-year-old kid, I'm like, I don't know what's happening right now. And so as I'm trying to calm him down, I'm like, is this a reaction to me saying that I'm only coming for 2 more weeks? And finally he says yes. I said, look, just to get you to calm down, if you make me a promise that you'll start doing your work the second I get here from now on, as long as I live in Los Angeles, I'll help you with your homework. Is that a deal? And he said yes. And that turned into an 8.5-year mentorship, which then plants a seed in me that, like, A, you can have a big impact, and B, that there are people just based on where they grew up, that their life will be different than mine simply based on geography. And so when I got into Quest, and now I'm employing, it's not a one-on-one, I had 1,400 employees, some like 800 or 900 of them had grown up in the inner cities because that's where manufacturing happens, so that's who you're hiring. And I just realized these are extraordinary people with absolutely no hope. And so what would it look like to give them hope, which, again, isn't ladling soup. It's really, what's the equivalent of teaching them to fish, which is teaching them how to think.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, how do we really solve this problem at scale? Yeah. And so, that literally is what my life's mission is to do.
So I've heard 2 things for it, just thinking, listening to that whole conversation. It's be in action, right? When things aren't going your way, be in action. Like Tony Robbins says, when you're in your head, you're dead. I've always said to people, your head's a scary place to be. Don't go there alone, right? So just being in action, I think, is the answer. And for you in real estate, it's pretty simple. Call 5 past clients, people that already respect you, like you, enjoy you, appreciate you. It will immediately change your emotional state. You'll feel better. You're right back in action, right? It's that simple. All right. Lori Cheek says, hey, can you ask Tom Bilyeu, speaking of Mel Robbins, I listened to the Mel Robbins interview and loved it. I can't seem to do the countdown to get my ass out of bed. How do you shut up your mind, or how do you shut it down at night and get that full REM sleep, which she thinks is the problem?
Yeah, so there's a couple things there. So one, I don't think you ever want to silence the negative voice. So the negative voice serves certainly an evolutionary purpose, and I think even today it serves a purpose, but you have to know how to leverage it. So one thing that really helped me is understanding how the brain is built. So it's actually a tri-layered structure. So at the center is what they call the lizard brain, which is your most primal base instincts, so fight or flight, all that stuff is there. On top of that's the mammalian brain, also known as the emotional center. And then on top of that is the neocortex, the thing that we all think of as making us human. It's our higher level cognition. So the negative voice is coming from somewhere lower. It's trying to keep you safe, which I actually think is good. Being anxious about something is wise up to a point, right? Yes. So being anxious about, let's say, doing this makes me really think and be prepared, but if that spills into a panic attack, then it's no longer useful. And that choice right there, where the people invest in the fear, is where it stops being useful. Or they go, okay, cool, thank you for that piece of information. I'm going to take this seriously, but I also know that this is just a weird ancestral echo of the way that my brain is structured, so I'm going to choose to ignore that. So people have to take conscious control of that process, decide what to focus on things going well instead of things going wrong. So that's part one. Part two is part of the reason that you're not getting out of bed is you're not excited about what you're going to go do. And I think
goes back
this,
to the first thing.
100%, this is like a big thing for me. I don't think many people are actually excited about what they want to do with their life. They've never taken the time to really outline it and be honest with themselves about what they like. Like, stop passing judgment on yourself and really say, what do I enjoy? Yeah. And then do something along those lines. So the truth of, like, if you look at my business, such an obvious echo of the things that I love and the areas I think I can have impact. So find that, because there is something that you could be doing that you would be so excited about you'd spring out of bed. Now, it's a process to create that, but you can create something like that.
Yeah. So many of you have done with me before, whether it's at a Blueprint event or at Summit or by Design, where we do that 20-year future self visualization. I would go back to that. I'd think about, where do you want your life to be in 20 years, right? So I don't think, my mentor would say to me, life is a process, right? That he doesn't believe in, like, if I always do ABC, I'm always going to get X, Y, Z. He just says it's a test. You got to try everything. There are certain things you can do to get clear on what it is you want, whether it's a visualization or a writing exercise. But the one thing I would stress to everybody is know what you want. Because when you have that, then it's, I know what I want. The alignment of my behaviors becomes easier. Let's look at the next question. So somebody asked, let's see real fast here. How do you break through the new habit of, like, when resistance is showing up, right? How do you break through that resistance?
It's very easy. It's identity. So identity drives behavior, right? That's straight out of my boy Tony Robbins' mouth. So if you buy into that, which I really hope you do because it's so true, then there's a really simple process to becoming a new person whose identity will then get the behaviors to conform. And it's deadly simple, and it goes like this. You say to yourself and anyone who will listen, I'm the type of person that. So for me, getting out of bed was really hard. It still is really hard. But my identity is I'm the type of person that gets out of bed, even though it's hard for me, in 10 minutes or less. I'm the type of person that goes to the gym, even though I don't like working out. I'm the type of person that eats right because I want to be able to generate that energy. And the fact that I say this stuff on camera all the time holds me accountable to that stuff. So that's really critical. So your identity is your leverage point into changing your behavior.
So speak to that because you talked about this on a lot of your interviews. By the way, for those of you that are just checking in, at Tom Bilyeu on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of the above.
All of the above.
We both have this agreement around accountability. And they're just like you doing this live, you're creating more accountability to continually align your behaviors to achieve the things you want to achieve. What advice would you say, especially to a lot of our coaching members who they'll say to us, at times I just don't feel like I'm coachable, which we know how important that is. And what they're really saying is, I'm resisting the accountability, right? I know I told you I want to triple my income. I know I told you I want a legendary life. Now you're holding me accountable to it, and it's hard, which is kind of the same resistance conversation. Thoughts or insight on how to get over the fear or the conversation, the bullshit story about accountability?
Wow, you threw a lot of things in there at the end.
Yes.
So let's take one. Let's take the bullshit story.
Good.
Because that one, A, it goes back to identity, and B, you get what you focus on. So, and this is really important. If you're taking notes, I'm going to write this down. You get what you focus on. Nothing is objectively real. So here's something that freaked me out, and we'll explain why I love the Matrix metaphor. This is real. Your brain is encased in total darkness. Light never reaches your brain. Once you understand that and you realize what you're looking around and seeing is your brain's best guess, you actually have two dime-sized blank spots in your vision right in the center, by the way, where the optic nerve connects to your eye, and your brain fills it in. You have no sense of experience of that. So your brain creates a construct. This is like the original virtual reality. And it does it so you don't bump into too much stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all your brain's best guess. It's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to protect you. Once I realized it's a construct, my brain is making things up. These may or may not be real. The story is one of the major parts of that. Your brain is telling you a story. You have bought into that story. You've made choices to believe it. But you could right now decide you're going to believe in a different story. That you're going to start telling yourself a story about yourself, what you're capable of, that feels like a total lie. But if you really invest in that, over time it actually becomes true. And that is the most surreal part about being a human, is that your actions are going to follow your beliefs. So we lead with belief. That's really hard for people to understand. They think, hey, to have confidence, I have to have done something that makes me confident. And the reality is confidence comes from competence, but it can also come from simply making a decision to do the things like strike a more powerful pose, to actually go try something, to lift the first weight, like to have the confidence to do that, to have the confidence that you can change. Like that's the big thing. So tell yourself a better story.
To look in the mirror and say, you're better than this, get off your ass and get to work, get out of bed, right? So much of this, guys, that you're hearing is, it's his self-talk. It's what he's saying to himself over and over and over and over, and then you reinforce those new beliefs over and over. Now, I don't mean to go all affirmation-ish on you, but I've been doing that since I was 18 years old. Brian Tracy said to me when I was 18, on your little Honda 125cc motorcycle, driving to work every day, you should be saying to yourself, I am powerful, I am determined, I am focused. And at the time, I most definitely was not. A year earlier, out of Mohawk and was kicked out of 5 high schools. So, you can do this. But go back to the accountability thing. So one side is their dialogue, their mindset. What's another thing that would help them get over the resistance around accountability?
I mean, a big part of this is actually wanting to get better. And so this is like, I don't know how to help everybody with that. But here's the truth. Once you want it, right? They've got that great parable of once you want success, like that guy whose head is being dunked under the water wants his next breath of air, you will find success. Now, that's really true. And the reason it's true is think about when you get backed up against the wall. Like we have so many old wives' tales about this. The mother who lifts the burning car off of her baby. The way that a mama bear, when backed into a corner, will kill just about anything to protect her young. It's like we have these narratives that we totally believe into, and by the way, they're probably true, of people doing extraordinary things, whether it's lifting a car or not, doing extraordinary things when their back's against the wall, and in their mind there is no choice but success. And that's when it gets interesting. When people, for whatever reason, they're a crushing, sucking wound of a human being, and they must succeed to prove something to themselves, that person I'll actually bet on, even though it comes from a dark place. And if you're with me on that one, it's a dangerous game. Now we're talking about my 80-20 principle.
I love this.
But 20% of your time, you need to be in the dark side. You need to be thinking about the things you've failed, you've messed up on, that you're disappointed in yourself. Now, can't be more than 20%. But like understanding that they've done studies on this. If you want someone to be able to endure pain, they do this by making them submerge their arm in an ice bucket. You can get them to withstand 30% more pain just by letting them express rage, anger. Because as humans, like when you can tap into that aggressive energy, you can just go harder in that moment. It's a very acute treatment, but when you've got that, you can do something. So look, this stuff gets really complicated, but most people just never get to the point where they demand that they win, that they demand it. Like once you demand, you won't accept anything less, then you'll be successful.
There are so many people watching right now that are resonating with that, because I mean, I can't wait to read the comments, because if I told you about now, I don't know, 25, 30,000 hours of private coaching sessions that I've had in my career, you begin to see patterns. And one of the most obvious patterns is something tragic happens, my back is up against the wall, and I triple my income. Right? It's fear, growth. And what a lot of people are afraid of is stepping into that fear, right? Stepping into the conversation of, why do I keep saying to myself over and over again, you're not worthy, you're not smart enough, etc. So first of all, I'm sorry that he was just coaching me there. That was really inspiring for me. So last question, right? Last question really quick here from Brian Mason, who says, what was the biggest letdown in your career so far? And if there was something you could change, what would it have been?
Well, in my early career, I was very, very embarrassed by myself because I had a fixed mindset. We were talking about this story off camera. We may have talked about it in the other show. I was arguing for an idea that was mine, and that's why I was arguing for it. And I ended up convincing my partners that I was right. And I've managed to frame it in a way where it's positive, because it ended up having this huge change in my life where I realized, what do I really want? Do I want to be rich or feel good about myself? Is there a way to feel good about myself and get my goals? And so going through that process taught me a lot, but it's actually really embarrassing. And then I spent a lot of time in a fixed mindset. And when I see people that are struggling with a fixed mindset, and I'll define a fixed mindset and a growth mindset like this. If you legitimately, no bullshit, if when somebody points out where you're wrong and some part of you gets arrogant and excited because you're arrogant because you know you'll make the change. You're arrogant because you know you'll lower your defenses and really take on that criticism. You're arrogant because you know you're going to put in the work to become a better version of yourself now that you have that information. And you're excited because you know that by doing that, by gaining that skill, you actually get more powerful. And let me define power. It's the ability to close your eyes, imagine a world, open your eyes, and then make that world come true. Okay, that's real power. An actual ability to manifest your will, which I can't think of anything better than that. So when somebody says, hey, Tom, you're bad at this, and you did this, and you embarrassed yourself, or whatever, I legitimately feel arrogance, what I call the arrogance of belief in myself that I'm going to figure this out, and then legitimate excitement, like you were just showing, where I know I'm going to put in the work, and then I'm going to become more powerful. So when you get to that point, you can escape the embarrassment that I was washed in a fixed mindset, making all these bad choices that were contrary to what I actually wanted to achieve. And the one thing that bothers me about a mental transformation, because I know how hollow this rings to them right now, because what they see now is somebody that's on the other side of success. So it's like, when I show you a before photo of me 60 pounds heavier, and then I show you the after with the abs, right? People are like, oh! But that is nothing compared to where I was emotionally, the sense of desperation, fear, being lost, where I was scrounging through my couch cushions to find enough change to put gas in my car, okay? That being a result of the choices I was making and where my mind was, and then where I am now mentally. Like if I could just show you a picture, other than to say this was the apartment I was in then, this is the house I'm in now, but like that still feels external, and I don't know how to show people that. But if they could really see that, they would understand who I was then, while important and a part of my journey, is still a crushing embarrassment. And Yeah, so that would be my biggest letdown.
I think it's important for everybody to get the context because now where you are and where you were, everything in the middle is what we're talking about. Right? All their questions are about how do I deal with the upset and the challenge and the day's not working and what's your morning routine, and because they're working on that, whether it's 10,000 hours to mastery or the development of themselves to be the kind of human being that go out and produce the results they want. So this has been awesome. Hey, I can't wait to read the comments. If you're not following Tom, at Tom Bilyeu on all the social media channels, check out Impact Theory. The David Goggins interview was ridiculous. It was a life changer for at Stemo Supremo 16, my son, who just to this day, he sees David Goggins and he just starts doing push-ups.
Yeah,
right? Because it's just legendary. So, Tom, you are a legend. Thank you so much for sharing for our community. Awesome. We can't wait for the first film to come out. There's a book coming out. 2018, 2019, so we'll make sure we bring him back. We'll do something around the book, but make sure you follow him, check him out. His interviews are legendary. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're out.